For you guys, it's an important question. How to shift to a cloud career? Now, I know a lot of you people out there are looking to change your domains and move into a little bit more, a trendy field, or rather, I would say a more upcoming field. Ma- Sorry for the disturbance, guys. Yeah, so that was my mom coming in. All right, so guys, let's talk about, how we can shift your cloud career. Now, before I do that, I want a confirmation from you guys, in the comments, whether you guys can see me properly or whether you guys can hear me properly or not, because I'm pretty sure I'm not on mute, but I don't want to make that mistake again and again. Now, I have the chat open right next to me, so if you guys want, you can go ahead and, uh, put in the comments and put something in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. All right, let me just open it up. And while all of it's happening, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys something. All right, so the chat is up. Yeah, so guys, here at Great Learning, we come with something really awesome called Great Learning Academy. Now, this is something that will really help you out if you're looking to change your career and if want to do it without having to spend a lot of money. Now, this is a venture that is started by us to help you guys out, and it's completely free. You don't have to pay anything for it. I'm not joking, it's serious. And a lot of you guys who watch our sessions, we talk about this and how we try to promote this, because this really helps a lot of different people out, because it's free and you don't have to pay for it, but you still get to learn a lot and you get a certificate for it. So what is this? It's basically a place where you can go ahead and get a free certificate for yourself. So if you just scroll down, or we have a search bar over here, you can search any particular course you want. We have some popular courses that you guys might like, but if you don't want to just see the popular courses, you can scroll down and you will see the live sessions that are there. You can register for these. As you can see, this is the one that we're doing right now, and we can come down and you guys can see all the different courses there are. You have introduction to digital marketing, you have smart English basics for professionals, you have intro to graphic design with Photoshop, you have a lot of different courses, and you guys can enroll in these courses. And once you complete these courses, once you pass the quiz, you will get a certificate that you can show people, that you have certain credibility, right? Because this particular institution, that is Great Learning, has passed you because you have enough knowledge on this particular field. So this will be really helpful if you're looking to do a course, if you're looking to build a basic set of fundamentals for yourself in whatever direction you may be taking. If you're taking data science as your career, or if you're going to cloud, or if you're going into anything like design or communications or digital marketing, it really does help. So don't forget to check it out. You just have to go to greatlearning.in/academy. All right, coming back, let me just see the chat. All right, so I can see that you guys can see my screen and that you guys have given me a good output. All right, so guys, this is what we're gonna do. Now, I want you guys to leave as many questions as you want in the chat so that I understand what is the need you guys have, what is the problem you're facing, and how I can help you to understand how you can shift your career to a cloud one, right? So please feel free to leave a comment in the chat, and if a person already knows an answer to that, so you can go ahead and answer it. It's not always the case where I can answer all the questions. Some questions I may miss because get buried in some other questions. So if you guys know yourself, help your fellow mates out and answer them in the chat. All right. So, guys, this is how we're going to start. We are basically going to go through these things to get a better understanding of all of these things. So, if you're very new to this, you don't know cloud at all, I'm going to give a small brief of what is cloud computing and how you can start learning it. So, if you want to shift to a cloud career, these are the few things you need to know. You need to know what cloud computing is. You need to know how you can start learning cloud computing. You need to know what kind of career you can find in cloud computing, and you need to know all the salary trends, because obviously you want to decide for yourself if this is worth it all or not. If you're going for the salary, then you really want to see what kind of salary you'll be offered, and obviously what kind of specialization you can do once you're pretty far ahead in your career. So let's start off by discussing what is cloud computing. Now I want to know from you guys, what do you guys know about cloud computing? How does it really help us? Or is there a particular cloud provider, or is there a cloud system that you guys like a lot? So leave that in the chat so that I get to know about it. You can see that there's Kashyap today also. Hi Kashyap, good to see you again. All right, so till you guys give me the answer, I'm just gonna go ahead because the lag is way too much, and if I just wait, it'll just be like 40 seconds of me staring at the screen. Cloud computing. So basically, if you wanted it in my own words, cloud computing is basically, it's a set of services that, you can use or give over the internet. Or, if you want a dictionary definition, it's a delivery of varied services over the internet. It's the same thing. It's just that you're providing certain services without actually having to. It's like renting a car, right? You do not exactly own that car, but you're using it, so it's like a service. Similarly, on sometimes there are a lot of services, like let's say there's some machine learning algorithms, or let's say that you want to have certain number of servers, and you don't want to maintain them yourself because that costs a lot of money. It's better for you to just rent them. So in that kind of situation, what would you do? You would basically rent them. So this is what cloud computing does. It gives you a lot of services that you may want to use for your business or for your personal use without having to expend the resources required to maintain those services, right? You are not gonna go ahead and buy a hair cutting salon so that you can have one time haircut, or every month, once a month, you have a haircut. So you're not going to buy a salon just for that. You're just going to go there, get the service, and be done with it. Similarly, even on cloud computing, there are some services where you don't want to buy and maintain for yourself because you may be a smaller company and you may not be able to afford the costs that are required to have your own on-premise hardware for all that purpose. What you do is you basically ask someone else to do it for you. And this person can be anywhere, it's over the internet. That means this person can be in America, this provider can be in Europe, and you can just use the services over the internet for that purpose. So obviously you need a little bit of a faster internet connection, not like me, but it can be possible, right? So there are a few examples that you guys can consider that you have to you have some certain photos that you have on your phone. Now you want to make sure that these photos get stored somewhere safe, because you had your old phone, and in your old phone there was no internet connection, but you had a lot of photos, you had a lot of memories with those photos, and your kid or your brother or your sister, they went and they deleted all of those photos, and you lost all those memories, so you want to back them up. So these days you have Google Cloud, right, where you can just store all of your photos on Google Cloud, or better word is Google Photos, where it's backed up there. So if something happens to your phone, if somebody steals your phone, or if one of your naughty brothers or sisters deletes it, then it's not a big of a issue because you've backed them up earlier itself, right? And a second example over here is backing office work into a server. Now this is again a backing up example, and where you're backing up all the sensitive information or the more important information or maybe some information that you want to save, but you don't have enough space in your home server, so you rent another server and you store it over there, or you're using online compute power to execute code. So there is a lot of scenarios where you need to execute, or you need to have a lot of processing power. So let's say that you have a very good laptop, but it's not enough to execute a data science an algorithm within data science. So what you do is you use the data science algorithm, you use the computing power of someone else's laptop. How? By using internet. You just give them the code, they will run the code on their system, and once they get the output, they'll just deliver it to you. Now, this is highly professional. What I've explained is completely simple, and it may not be exactly this, but these are just examples, right? So now, before we move on, I want to answer a few of your questions that you guys have been pinging me with. So before I do answer them, I hope that this was clear for you guys what cloud computing is, and how it is really helpful. Give you a little bit of examples also. Right. So we had a first question coming in from Shubham. I'm a BCom graduate, a fresher, and I want to shift my career in clouds. How can I shift my career? Please guide me. So Shubham, since you're a BCom graduate, that's not a big of a problem, dude. Like, it really doesn't matter what kind of background you're coming from, because as a fresher, it is difficult to get a job. And if you're really not interested in the field that you're already in, right, bachelor's in commerce, then it is not that difficult to shift into cloud. Now, there are a few prerequisites that I will be talking about that you guys need to know before you get into cloud. So there is one thing that I said before: you need to know what cloud is, and second, you need to start learning about cloud. Okay, don't worry, even if you're a BCom graduate, even if you're a BCom graduate, that really doesn't affect you that much. All right. So we have Kuzima asking, what kind of role can I aim as a BBA graduate? So there are a few things that you can do. Now, if you want it related to your graduation, whatever you did in your graduation, it's going to be a little bit more specified and it'll be a little bit more specialized. But if you are a fresher who's just come out of, BBA graduate, you may not get the role that you want, right? With BBA graduate, helping you out in certain way. What you can do is, you can start with the starter positions. Now I'll talk about what those positions are and how you can get started in them. Cloud computing important for jobs: AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, right? So we have answers for me asking what are the cloud platforms you guys know about. So some people do know about them, like AWS is Amazon's web services. So it's a cloud platform that they use to provide a lot of services. And generally, this is what I also use because I really like it. I like it more than Azure and Google Cloud also, but they're all kind of comparable. Cost effective wise, I wouldn't know exactly because I'm not a solutions architect. So Kuzima Shabir also saying AWS Azure. Then we have Mohammed Arafa saying, I am from Java background, can just want to switch to cloud. Is it worth it? It is definitely worth it, Mohammed, since you already have a little bit of a technical side to you where you have Java coding. It is easier for you to shift than for people who are just freshers, because if you have coding knowledge, it's a lot more easier to get into these kind of roles because you are already acquainted with all of these things. But that is not to say that if you do not have this kind of background, it will be a lot more difficult, right? It's just that you have to learn these things, like a little bit of coding, and if not coding, you need to know all the cloud fundamentals, because there are a lot of people who just into cloud fundamentals and they're very, very good at it. It's all about your skills. Like, if you have the skills, then it's not a problem. No one will question you. I mean, people will question you, but they will be satisfied with those answers they get to the questions. All right. So we have um Bridget is asking, it's like storage also. Through a cloud, we can store data. So that is again another example. It's similar to the photos thing we were talking about, where we want to save data. So you guys might have heard of S3 or Glacier. These are Amazon Web Services that allow you to store data in different ways. S3 is where you just store data like this, right? And then you have Redshift, which is your RDBMS. Okay, Brijesh is saying, hi, I'm working on storage and networking background. Can I switch to cloud computing? Yes, Brijesh, you can definitely switch to cloud computing. It is not a problem for you since you already have knowledge in networking and storage. You can, go into similar domains. So you have storage on cloud, like you were just talking about, right? So there are services that are very specific to that, but if you want to go into those roles such as cloud architect and all, it will be a lot more easier for you to do so. All right, so there are still a lot more questions coming in. Guys, keep these questions coming in, but let me continue for some time explaining what to do, and then I'll come back to all of these questions. All right, so now let us discuss why is cloud computing so important, because it's basically allowing us to do things over the internet that we weren't previously able to do, right? Able to move entire organizations to the cloud. So this is called migration, where you're taking certain things from your organization and you're transferring it over to cloud. Let's say you are a legacy company that you've been working for 80 years. Maybe you're like a milk company or something, and you've been very successful over the past 80 years. But now you see that the trends are where people are shifting to the internet and using cloud services for everything, because it's become much more cheaper to do so also. So what they do is they basically take all of their information and they migrate all of it onto cloud services, and they start using cloud services for whatever needs they have. So that is a big use, and that really does help them because it reduces the costs of maintaining their own servers. It reduces the cost of human errors that happen in any of the services that previously weren't handled by the cloud. So it really is a lot more cost effective to use cloud services like AWS and Azure for this purpose. Now, there's a lot of scope for data storage and powerful processing. As I talked about earlier about S3, object storage, and Glacier, those are your storage services that are provided by AWS as a cloud service. Now, there are other Azure and GCP have their own, respective cloud storage services. So these storage services are very important because sometimes you want to store a lot of amount of different information. So maybe you want to store them in cold storage. Now, cold storage is a location where you store data for very long terms, and you don't, if you ask them for the data back, right, it takes a little bit of time because you're paying very less amount of money for a large amount of data to be stored for a long time. So if you just want to store it for like 3, 4, 5, 6 years, so it goes into cold storage. So for that kind of purpose, you have Glacier, right? So what kind of data do you store over there? You store data that you want to store, but you may not use that in future. So this can be customer data, right? Uh, so this can be customer data where you have customer age information where you need it just for processing purposes, and you have, or maybe historical data where you've seen previous trends on how your product was being sold, and you want to measure how it would be in future based on your historical data. So you store that historical data in those cold storages. Now basically my point over here is that you can have different types of storages, where you have hot storage also, where you can immediately get the data you want. It's a little bit more expensive, but it is a type of data storage. And also powerful processing. So things like big data, right, they're becoming very huge because data is the currency, is the new currency. Basically anyone who has information has a lot more knowledge and has a lot more capability to succeed, right? So that's why a lot of people are making use of big data technologies like your Hadoop and all. So even those services are available over cloud, where you can use AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud providers, these big data processors, and make use of them instead of just having them on your own servers. So there's also a wide variety of services offered in multiple domains. So there are just so many different services that are offered. Let me just give you a slight example. Let me just go ahead and type in Amazon services. We'll do AWS services. And this will give you a glimpse of how many different types of services there can be, right? So if I just click over here, Right. So you guys can see over here, the first thing it tells us, it shows us is, all the different various things you can do with the help of Google, Amazon. You can start building with free tier. So if you are someone who's new, that is most of you, most probably, then you can start using AWS for free completely. You just have to give in your debit card or credit card information, and you can use AWS for free till a certain period of time. So you make sure you know what that certain period of time is. You can basically launch your first app. You can easily work remote and start learning, and you can use Amazon Light Sale. Now this is basically a desktop thing. Now let me just come down. This is not what I wanted to show you anyway. Right. So this is what I wanted to show you. So over here, you guys can see these are all the services that Amazon provides. You have analytics. Within analytics, I just, hovered over it, and you guys can see how many services there are within Amazon Analytics. You have Amazon Athena, you have EMR, you have Redshift, you have AWS Data Pipeline, Amazon Cloud Search, Kinesis, QuickSight, and they all serve different purposes like query data in S3, which is your object storage using SQL. So if you want to, query your data, you use Amazon Athena. If you want, host a Hadoop framework, then you use EMR. And if you want, very simple data warehousing, then you make use of Redshift. And if you want to create a very robust pipeline, you make use of AWS Data Pipeline, right? So you have a lot of different services that are available over here, and there are different types also. This was just analytics. If I go to application integration, you can see there are a lot of different services, and all of it is available from your Amazon um, management console. And AWS cost management is not strictly a service that you want unless you're actually using AWS. Let's move on. There's blockchain also, and there is business applications, and I can just keep on showing you like computation, containers used for software development, customer engagement, database, developer tools, end user computing, front end, web, mobile, game tech, Internet of Things, which is again a very thing that's a thing that's going to be very big in future. Machine learning, management, governance, media services, migration, transfer, networking, quantum technologies, robotics, satellite, security, identity compliance, serverless, storage, VR, AR. There's so many different services that cloud can provide you, and almost everyone can find a use case over here. Whether any kind of business you have, even if you're a small bakery, you can make use of Amazon Cloud for storage purposes, right? If you want to store data for long term, then you can make use of S3 or Glacier if you want. Or, if you want to apply, if you're kind of smart and or if you have knowledge in that particular field, you can start making use of machine learning algorithms to find what kind of products or what kind of cakes people like most in from your shop. Or if you're a small indie game company, you can make use of the game services that Amazon provides you with, right? So there are a lot of different things, a lot of different services that benefit a lot of different people. So this is basically going to be the future. Almost everyone is investing in it. You have Amazon, one of the biggest companies investing in cloud. You have Microsoft with Azure. You have Google with its GCP, right? So they're all pushing cloud really hard because this is going to be the future. Now let's come back. And generally the plans are pay as you go plans that are very light on the wallet, so they're very cheap, and that's one of the most important things, because I've mentioned this again and again. If it's not cheap, if it's not convenient for people, then people are not going to use it. So that's how you basically sell a product. Cloud computing is a product. And why do people use it? Because it's cheap, because it's very convenient to use, and it offers a lot of different, it offers flexibility in doing what you want to. Obviously, it doesn't have all the niches covered. Like there might be some obscure thing where you're doing a simulation for some light thing where you're well, basically my point being, a very obscure simulation if you want to do, you may not be able to do that. You need very proprietary software for that, that is gone out of use or something. So again, on those obscure cases you cannot use that, but you have for most cases, right? So this is why we use cloud computing. Now let's go through the step-by-step guide of how you guys can start learning cloud computing. So the first step in learning cloud computing is working on the fundamentals. You have to understand what cloud computing is. Now we've understood it. I hope that you guys understood what cloud computing is. It is basically computing over the internet. If you guys didn't understand, it is doing all the things you would do on a computer, but over the internet, right? Okay. Now, you need to know what are the different types of cloud computing and the IaaS, the PaaS, and all those platform as a cloud, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, right? So those things you need to know them in detail, and then you come to variety of services and solutions. So you need to know what are the different services. And so again, when I talk about all these four different things, right, you need to concentrate on a specific service. So you can concentrate on being a person who knows about either Azure or AWS. So why am I giving this kind of suggestion? Why am I narrowing you down to a specific service? Well, I'm doing this because generally, um, when you know these cloud fundamentals, right, you need to apply them also. To apply them, you need to practice. So you'll either practice with AWS or you either practice with Azure because these are the two biggest players. Or if you want, you can do it in GCP also, but it's not very widely used. So I would not recommend going to GCP. I would recommend either Azure or AWS. Now, again, when you make your career, you'll be making your cloud career in either of these fields because as a fresher, as a person from different background, who does not know about computer science, it will be difficult to get into a company as a cloud engineer just by knowing the fundamentals. You need to know how to apply those fundamentals also. So, what I recommend is learning all of these things with respect to a certain cloud provider. And personally, I'm biased towards AWS, so I would also recommend using AWS, but you guys can do Azure also. Learn what is cloud computing with respect to AWS or Azure. What are the different types of cloud computing within them? Now, these two first things are very fundamental and they do not change that much. But when you come to variety of services and solutions offered, that does change. AWS will have different types of services or different services than Azure, and for that you need to learn the fundamentals. Actually, in most cases, you won't even have to stick to a particular cloud service in the first step. That's for later. So if you move on to the second step, it is getting proficient with multiple operating systems. So guys, here you need to know how to work with a different kind of operating system because you may go into a job where you are required to understand what is the infrastructure like, because there's a lot of different types of jobs that are available within the cloud domain. You can have security, cloud security. You can be a part of that. You can be a part of cloud networking. You can be a part of cloud software development if you're working as a software developer where you are developing these services themselves. Or you can be an cloud administrator where you're administrating a lot of these different services for a specific company. Or you're a solutions architect. Now, you guys might have heard of this, and solutions architect is not a small position. I mean, if you guys don't have any experience in cloud, I'm sorry to tell you, but you will not be able to be a solutions architect. But that's fine. It's like saying that is the highest positions. It's not easy to get there. But I'm just giving you an example, okay? So solutions architect are basically those people who know a lot about a specific, cloud service, and they have a lot of information about how things really work in the industry. So if you are a Amazon solutions architect, you will know what are the different services that are being offered. So as a solutions architect, your job will be basically create the IT infrastructure, create the software infrastructure, software development infrastructure for your company, and and designing it, and then implementing those designs. And you have to design it in such a way that it is very cost effective. So cost effective is again a thing that you'll keep on hearing in the cloud industry, because the whole point is to make it as cheap as possible. And if you're using a service that is there are two similar services, and if you're using the service that is more expensive but not as useful to you, then what's the point, right? You have to know the differences. So this is again where you'll need to know the difference. Now, that is going a little further away from step two. In step two, you need to know how to work with different kinds of operating system. So obviously, a lot of you already know Windows, but when I say work with these operating systems, you need to know these operating systems in and out, about the kernel, about the process scheduling that happens, or about the commands that you need to use. So in Windows, you need to know how the PowerShell works, how to manipulate different things within the operating system. And similarly, even with Linux, Linux is a more widely used operating system within software development industry. So you'll need to know how to work with Linux. What are the different basic commands? And if you're going to be an administrator in either of these fields, then then you definitely need to know how to work with these systems. All right. That was step two. Let's go to step three. So programming is a turn off for a lot of people because programming is a little bit difficult. But when I say explore programming, I mean at least know about it. You may not need to know programming perfectly. You may not need to know all the hash maps, or you may not need to know all the sorting algorithms that exist, but you do need to know how they work, or you need to know the fundamentals of them based on one specific languages. If you're working with databases in cloud, let's say that you have previous experience with databases and you start working with databases even in cloud, so there you can use that knowledge of querying with SQL, right? And learning and knowing how to manage those databases. Python is a very popular choice and is used by a lot of people. And seriously, if you guys don't know about programming and if you feel it's a little bit difficult to get into it, don't worry. Just pick up Python. Python is actually very easy to get into, and it really is an amazing language. You can use it for so many different purposes. I'm not going to go ahead and talk about Python now, but just if you're a beginner and if you want to learn coding, not learn coding, if you want to go to cloud computing, I would recommend, knowing Python. At least Python. You can use it for a lot of different purposes, and people generally would be fine if you know Python. Experience with like Microsoft .NET architecture and a push towards the hands-on approach where you need to be very practical. You need to start implementing things. If you have a website that you already have on your system, you want to deploy it, then learn how to deploy it using cloud services. You have a lot of free tiers stuff where you can use stuff for free without having to actually pay for it. So use that, implement it. You can show people when you are going for, getting a job, you can show them this is the project that you implemented for yourself. Or if there is a use case at your home itself, right? Like let's say that at home, you can it's just going to be a little difficult example. So let's say that you have a lot of IoT devices within your home that you're making use of, and you find a special solution out of that. Let's say that you're using Alexa for detecting certain frequencies of noise. Now I'm just throwing things in the air, but I'm just telling you, you can just use it for something real life, in real life example, taking it and using cloud for that purpose. What I'm basically trying to say is do projects. Having projects on your belt, on your resume, really does help, especially if you're doing it for your own purpose. People will ask you this question: how have you implemented cloud technology for personal use? What have you done it at home? Now, obviously, you have a lot of experience maybe in cloud, but I want to know how do you actually, use it at home? Because that's how they'll know whether you have passion in this particular field or not. All right. Okay. Before we move on to step 4, I just want to look through all the questions. All right. So we have Chaitanya saying, I'm having Microsoft desktop support experience. Is it easy to learn cloud? So people who know about, operating systems generally have a little bit easier time shifting to it. And since you're doing desktop support, it's not going to be a lot of problem for you to switch into a cloud career. It is a little easier for you to do so. Now, how would you do that? I would recommend doing certification for any of these cloud providers like Amazon or Azure. Since you already have knowledge about, Microsoft desktop support, I would recommend going for Azure because, Azure is owned by Microsoft and it's a little bit easy to transition. I'm not going to say it's a lot of difference. It's a very slight difference. If you want, you can go to Amazon also. Um, it should not be very hard. Just do one of the associate level certificates. There is an exam for those certificates. And if you guys don't know about these certificates, don't worry. We'll have a whole session just on the cloud certifications themselves. Or what you guys can do is just type in great learning and cloud certifications and you get a really awesome video that will explain everything to you. All right, so that's how you can do it, Chaitanya. Then we have Pratik asking, how much time is required to prepare for cloud knowledge and interviews switching job profile? I'm from middleware Linux background. Now, Pratik, you already have middleware Linux background information. So what I would recommend is, not information, knowledge. So what I would recommend is, staying at your current job if you are in your current job, and learning on the weekends and finding 1 2 hours every day. If you can find 1 hour every day, and if you can find 3 to 4 hours every weekend, if you can set that kind of time aside, then it should not take you a lot of long time. It should take you 1 month to understand most of the this thing. What do you call it? Yeah, most of the basics you'll understand them in within a month. but you need to start practicing them and implementing them. So it may take 1 month more or 2 months more to just, get into the speed of doing everything. And once you have enough projects on your resume, then is that is when you can start applying for jobs. Because, again, without actual cloud experience, you cannot directly apply for a job because they will ask you. So instead of having, if you don't have the experience, what do? You do projects and you know the fundamentals and you know the basics. So you cover up all the other parts. So let's say that it takes you 2 months to learn cloud, and that's when you start applying for jobs. So applying for jobs is different, like in different markets also. So if you are from India, I think how your interviews go, and depending upon how many vacancies there are. So what I would recommend is, start applying for very not high level jobs, like apply for associate level jobs, like cloud engineer or a junior cloud engineer. Or if you find an internship is something of a downgrade for you, maybe because you already have working experience in middleware Linux background. But you get experience through internships. For all those freshers out there, not Pratik, if you guys are freshers, try looking for internships, try looking for junior associate level jobs for cloud, because those are the jobs that get you experience. And you may not be getting a lot of money in those jobs, but what you will get is a lot more important, that is experience about these particular technologies. Right. So for Pratik, I think it may take around 3 to 4 months if you stay in your current job. Now, if you take the option of leaving a job because you have enough money to sustain yourself for maybe like 1 year or something, then it may take a little bit of lesser time. It may take you just like 1 or 2 months, right? Again, it depends on the number of vacancies in the in the jobs that are available, and depending on where you are also. If you're in Bangalore, it's going to be a lot more easier than if you're in Delhi. Now, these days, you can even find contract work also, where you're working for contract from specific companies. But you guys want a little bit more. I'm assuming you guys want more of a permanent job, right? You don't want to work contract. So there also, there's a lot of different variables to consider. So I hope that answered your question. Gopinath is asking, I don't have knowledge in coding, how to learn basics. So you don't know coding, that's totally fine. And you want to learn basics. So I would recommend picking up a language, and that is Python, and start doing any of the free services that are available. Or better yet, if you know Hindi or if you want to learn in Hindi, we have an amazing Python tutorial on Great Learning that you guys can start. It's by Bharni. He's done a really amazing job. Just type in Great Learning and Python, or just type in Python tutorial Great Learning, and you'll find an English version of it and Hindi version of it. Whatever language you're comfortable in, you can start watching that particular video. It will really help you out, and it goes through all the different basics, right, for beginners itself. If you want to learn C++, we have live sessions on those, and we have videos on those also. You can start learning C++ also. But I would recommend Python because Python is a little bit more easier, especially for beginners who don't have coding experience. Okay, so how are we using cloud computing in photography? So that is a very good question, because you're asking how you're using cloud in real life. Now, personally, I've not used it, but there are a lot of different services that can help you. So if you want to start processing your image, right, maybe you want to apply certain algo to it that will enhance that image. Or if you have an image enhancing AI and you don't have enough computing power on your system, maybe you can use a service that is available on cloud for that kind of purpose. So that is one extent of, I can tell you how to use cloud computing photography. Another thing can be thinking of it. I mean, generally for photography, what you need is you need a good mind, you need a good camera, and you need a good software to edit it post production. So in post production, you generally would use some other tools. So I really can't find a lot of things to talk about. Maybe let me just look through those services again, and then I'll tell you. I have done AWS for beginners course so far. Would an architect role suit me? So, Kuzima, I would recommend you going for a job instead of going for a, yeah. architect role would be good for you, definitely. But since you're a beginner, you will not get an architect role. I'm sorry to tell you about that. Architect roles are those top level positions generally in cloud, because you are responsible for designing a whole architecture for a whole company, and that's a big job. And for that, people usually ask for people who have some kind of knowledge or some kind of experience in it. But don't worry, you can start off with the beginner level roles that are available to you. These are cloud engineer profiles or cloud administrator profiles. Even if you have some kind of experience with this also, then it becomes easier for you to just become, just look for a job like a cloud administrator. Then when you become a cloud administrator, from there you can move on to becoming a solutions architect. So if you have like 3-4 years of experience in that particular job, then you can apply in a different company, go to the different company, and become a solutions architect over there. But from a beginner level, you can't go there. Sorry, but this is how it is. But I've given you a career path that you guys can take for that purpose. All right. So Shyam says, "Hi, I'm an infrastructure support engineer. Is it possible to migrate to cloud domain?" Yes, definitely possible, Shyam. And I've been saying this to everyone. It is possible for you, but Shyam, it is a little bit more easier for you since you're an infrastructure support engineer. You already have some kind of idea about how the infrastructure is being set up. So here you already probably have some knowledge about the operating systems that are being used, and you may even have had some experience with cloud itself, because these days a lot of infrastructure is on the cloud. If you don't, that's totally fine. The infrastructures are kind of similar. Just start learning a cloud step by step, and you'll see how familiar some of it is actually, right? And once you learn it, you can use your experience as well as the knowledge you've acquired to do a lot of projects. And once you have those projects, you can start applying for jobs. Microsoft Azure also benefits to enhance skills. Yeah, definitely. If you can just learn it on side by side for personal purpose also. You don't really have to do this for doing a job. But this session is for, explaining how to shift to cloud career. So that's why I'm more specific about that. So Kusim is asking, it's so much options and so confusing. Which one should I pursue and how to choose? A very good question. I will answer that as we go through, because I need to cover all the steps also. So here's what we still have a lot more questions coming in. I'm just gonna take a break now and continue the session, and then I'll start answering the questions. Okay. So now let's move on to the step 4, that is choose a top provider. Now, as I told you before, you necessarily don't need to start choosing a provider right in the start itself. But I would recommend choosing it in the start, because that way you have a clear cut idea. You need to choose. Or what you can do for yourself is you can learn the fundamentals, like, learn the different types of clouds and the different kinds of services that are available, and learn all different operating systems. For this, you won't need to pick a cloud provider. And even for learning SQL and having database, learning all the database technologies and learning Python or Microsoft .NET architecture, you don't need to pick a particular provider. So even on step 4, you can do it, but it depends on your personal preference. You can pick it in the start itself, or you can pick it on step 4. Here you can choose things like Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, and IBM Cloud. Now, you have to look at the market and you have to see which one is the most popular one. Now, I'm saying this because, if you are going to be working with a specific provider, you want to see what the longevity of your career is going to be like. If you start picking IBM Cloud and you see that IBM is a very old company that is lagging behind and is not able to compete with a lot more other companies, then the platform they provide may not be the best one and may not last a lot longer, because this is how markets work. Somebody might buy it or somebody might just crush it with in competition. So look at what's most popular and look at the future trends. So if Amazon is something you see growing a lot more, which it is, and see, Azure wasn't a big deal like maybe like 10 years back, but now it's a very big deal. It's one of the top dogs now. Google Cloud Platform, not so much, but it's like if I wanted to rank them, I would rank the popularity wise AWS, Azure, and then GCP, right? Then you have all the others. But generally, the thing is that if you know the services and if you have the basic information, know scripting, and if you know Python language and if you know all the technologies, it's easier for you to migrate. So let's say that you've been working for Amazon Web Services for pretty long time, maybe for like 5 years, and you see that it's going to die. This is just a hypothetical. I'm not saying this will happen. It will not be very difficult for you to shift to Azure because Azure and AWS offer similar kinds of services. So there will be difficulty for you to transition into it, but it's not going to be impossible, right? Because the fundamentals are the same. Like all the basic stuff is going to be the same. It's just that you're seeing a new skin and different kind of implementation with Azure versus AWS. So pick a provider and don't worry too much about it, but worry a little bit. Hone in your favorite service. So again, this is where you can specialize also, where you can learn a specific service and specialize in that specific service, right? Let's say that you are amazing at let's say all the storage services. So when you're good at storage services, people might see that if they want someone who's really good at data warehousing and knows a lot about business and a lot about analytics, then they might choose you over someone who has just certain knowledge. Now, for beginners, this is not something I would recommend, but again, I would recommend honing on your favorite service. Like if you like something, then you should definitely go services and you want to learn more about it, then you can definitely do that and hone that service. Make yourself, more marketable by telling people that I'm very good at this particular service. But I would not recommend doing this from the start. That's why it's in step fifth, right? Because step five, you need to have flexibility. You need to make sure that if you're not getting a job for your favorite service, you're still getting a job for a cloud engineer role or something, right? So that is step five. Now let's talk about step six. Take up practical problems and solve them. As I've told you guys before, what you need to do is you need to start picking up, real life problems and solving them making use of cloud. So oh, there's one thing. There's a role called DevOps role. If you guys know about it, there's a lot of cloud, you know, cloud use in that. So as a DevOps role, your job would be to basically making sure that the software is being delivered very well and the whole process is automated. So they make use of cloud technologies also. So in that case, what you generally, what I say is you learn all the technologies and tools used in that and you try to apply it. Like let's say you make a very simple website and then try to deploy it, make sure that the whole process is very smooth and there are no issues. Similarly, even in cloud computing, so if you are working with any service or something, and if you're working with a bunch of services together, then apply it for any real life scenario, right? Take any free examples that are available on GitHub. So what you guys can do is just type in whatever project. So let's say a library project, MIT license, GitHub. Now, why am I typing this? I'm typing this because what generally you can do is you can find projects on GitHub that have MIT license. Or basically what MIT license is, it's a license that allows you to freely take someone's code and use it for your own purpose. Now this is in the best practice. You should ask permissions to people, any person. So let's say that this is the GitHub repository for someone's code. Ask them like, can I use your code for my practice purpose? They would appreciate it, and in most cases people really like it when someone's forking their code. So when you're forking the code, right, just ask the permission from this particular person that can I take your project or not. And generally, people actually want you to take their project. So go ahead and ask them. And once you take someone's project, try to implement it. Like, let's say that this is a licenser, right? So what you can do is you can deploy it using cloud services. Okay, so this is just an example. And again, always take someone's permissions before you take the code. And don't worry, in most cases, people are very readily, they just want to give them your code because they're so happy that someone really likes the code and is using them to learn more about it, right? And GitHub is an awesome place for you guys to do that. Okay, all right. Let me come back. Yeah. So step seven is working on your business management skills. So basically, this is where your miscellaneous stuff comes in, where you need to have excellent communication. You need to be able to talk properly. You need to be able to communicate your ideas properly without padding or beating around the bush, because time is important and time means money, right? So you need to be able to communicate your ideas perfectly within the time frame you're given, and you need to be able to adapt. Like if a new technology comes in and your company starts using that new technology, you need to be able to adapt to that, and you need to be a little bit more extrovertish. I don't want to say this because I know it's not very easy for everyone, but this is how it is. You need to talk to your teammates, and if you have a very good, synergy with your teammates, if you're able to talk to them, you have good chemistry with them, then it's a lot more, of a better working environment and for everyone, because there is no friction when people have to talk to each other. There's no hostile work environment. uh, then you will be also, interacting with clients and different vendors also, if you're working for a consultation firm or something around that area. You need to be able to change the services based on the requirements. If these particular clients need only one service to implement, and this particular client needs a multitude of different services, then you need to know when to customize those services for that purpose, and you need to be able to communicate them with them properly also. Right. And step 8, this is where DevOps technology also comes in. So you guys will need to know a little bit about DevOps also. And once you grow into your cloud career, you'll start to learn a lot about DevOps. Now, DevOps is a certain role that you can take without cloud also. Without cloud, as in you can start it off without cloud, but in the end, cloud computing and DevOps kind of land in the same place, because these days everything is on cloud, and because of that, DevOps is also on cloud now. Okay, so you'll need to learn all the different tools that are available with DevOps. You need to know about tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible. There's a lot more tools like Docker, Kubernetes, and all that. And you need to know about containerization. If you're going to software development, right? In software development, they make use of containerization a lot. So you need to know services like EKS or ECS. These services are basically like containerization services. Okay, if it's a little bit complicated for you guys, don't worry. I'll simplify it down. Just know the starting, like, titles of it, DevOps technology and all. Okay. All right. Understand the trends, because trends are important and you need to remain on top of your game, right? So, giving an example, a doctor who uses, archaic methods to treat people will not be the most successful one. The doctor that attends workshops and, learns all the new and more safer technologies will be on the top of his game or her game. Similarly, with cloud computing, also you need to know what is trending and what kind of technology needs to be used. Every year, new tech stacks come up, and new technologies come up. So you need to know which one will be cost effective to implement, and which one will actually be beneficial for you to implement within your domain. All right. So cloud certifications. So there are a lot of different cloud certifications you guys can do. So there are 6 Google Cloud certifications that you can apply for, 12 AWS ones, 12 Microsoft ones, and 5 IBM Cloud certifications. All right. So we'll talk about those cloud certifications in a while. In step 11 is build a domain specific resume. So your resume is important for your part of your profile, and you guys need to be very specific. So if the job role entails info, it says that you need to you need to have a lot of information in storage services, then make your resume for that company. Don't use a very generic resume for everyone. You need to craft a resume for each job you're applying for. If you're applying for 100 jobs, you need to make 100 resumes very specific to those jobs, right? Because mm, people will be more willing to take you if you have specific knowledge in those specific fields that they want, right? Work on a specialization. This comes very like a lot in the end. This is like, let's ignore that. All right, so okay, now I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions you guys have, and we can go ahead and talk about the career of cloud computing. All right, so let me just show you guys one more thing. Right, Amazon.com. So there are various AWS certifications that you guys can do. Now, what Amazon offers is they basically offer you certifications that you guys can do, and you can earn yourself, that you can earn credibility that this particular cloud provider, has given me authorization to become a certain service user. So there are a lot of certifications you guys can apply for. If you just go to aws.amazon.com/certification, you can see what kind of role you want to take in, right? So there is professional, 2 years of comprehensive experience in designing, operating, troubleshooting solutions of using AWS cloud. There's associate, this is the beginner level stuff, and there's foundational also. So you have cloud practitioner. This is basically 6 months of fundamental AWS cloud and industry knowledge, and associate is the one step above thing where you have 1 year of experience solving problems and implementing solutions for AWS cloud, and then you have professional with two, and then obviously beyond that you have a lot more certificates available. So again, over here you guys can see cloud practitioner is the most basic one that you guys can apply for. There is an exam that AWS gives. You guys can go ahead and basically give those exams. But to study for these exams, you can go ahead and watch our videos, because our videos will give you an in-depth explanation of those, like just typing great learning and cloud. There's a very good video by Vishal. He explains all of these processes in a very smooth manner, and you guys can basically then give the exam for cloud practitioner. Once you become a cloud practitioner, you can apply for a job, of a low level job, and then once you enter that job in at the end of the year of that job, you can apply for any of these particular variables, like a solutions architect associate, and sysops administrator associate, and developer associate. So again, here you can choose either one of these directions where you can become an architect. Now an architect is basically the one who's supposed to help design these kind of things, right? So again, as I said earlier, you cannot go directly to become an architect. You need to go from a cloud practitioner to an architect, and even there you'll be an associate level. You won't decide everything. That will be done by a professional and a person who has a lot more years of experience in this particular field, but you will be on the track path for that particular role also. You can take architect. If not, you can take operations, so a system operations administrator. So you can, if you want any administrative role for any company, then you can try for this, where you have sysops administrator role, where you're basically managing all the different systems on the already designed architecture. So it's like architects basically design the systems, system operation, sysops administrators manage those systems, and developers are the ones that develop specific apps for that purpose. And from these two, you can go to a DevOps engineer role, and from this one, you can go to a solutions architect professional role. And then again, you have specialization. This comes a lot later, like in a lot later, as in like 5 years down your career line, where you can start, take a certification for advanced networking, security, machine learning, Alexa skill builder, database, and data analytics. So these come later, and you'll start with a cloud practitioner. Okay. Now, be careful. These exams cost a lot of money, so you need to know very well about what you're doing. Okay, because if you pay a lot of money and you don't pass, then it's not very useful for you, right? So make sure that you have all the information that you need. So for that, you can go ahead and watch a great learning video on cloud computing. All right, let us go through the questions that you guys have for me. Now, again, this is for AWS, and for Azure also you have similar kind of certifications. Kuzima, I hope that answered your question. It's so confusing, and which path should I take? Okay. SK Logic, you say that you don't have a computer. How do you use cloud computing? So you can, very surprising to say, you can use a cloud computing provider even on phone. So you can use AWS or Azure on phone also. I'm not exactly sure about Azure, but you can definitely use AWS on your phone also. It's not very intuitive, like it's not very easy to use, but you can make use of it. And if you have a tab, then it becomes a little bit more easier. But then again, right, you need a computer for this. So what I would recommend is getting a very low-end computer for yourself, save up enough money for that purpose, or go to a library, use computers over there, or if you can in cyber cafe. But right now, because of the COVID situation, you may not be able to, but when it clears up, you can go ahead and do that. Or if not, buy a very low-end laptop, a low-end second-hand laptop. If you cannot afford a low-end laptop, buy a low-end second-hand laptop. Might only cost 5,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees. Or borrow a laptop. If you have friends, just ask them, can I borrow your laptop? For some like 1 2 days, I'll return it to you, and use the most of what you have basically. All right, so Sam, CSC engineering, how do I use cloud computing in own data? Okay, so if you are a CSC engineer, your final year project, you'll have some kind of final year project, right? So again, as I told you earlier, what you can do is you can look at the services that are available and implement those services within your project. So let's say you want to deploy a website, which is where you take your website and make it available to everyone else. What you can do is you can learn about containerization. Now, containerization is a little difficult topic, but since you're a CS engineer, it will be easy for you. Learn containerization and make use of one of the services that allows you to containerize your app, right? Or just use EC2 services in Amazon. Sorry, I'm a little bit more, I have a lot more in-depth knowledge for AWS versus Azure. So I can direct you how to do it in AWS, but if you want Azure, it's a little bit more difficult for me to answer. What I can tell you is take a project you have and try to use that project, or deploy that project using one of the cloud services, and make sure that they're free. Since I'm saying you don't have a laptop, try to make sure that whatever you're doing, right, is free. So be sure to check that service, what is available in the free tier, because there is a free tier beyond which if you go, you have to start paying. Okay. All right, so I hope that answered your question. If you come down, how much cost for cloud computing course? If you're going to, check out the Great Learning video or certificate, that's completely free. And the video we have on YouTube, that's completely free, so you don't have to pay anything for it. But there is going to be cost for the AWS certification if you want it. You can apply for jobs without these certifications, but I would recommend getting these certifications. Yeah. Do you recommend Azure or AWS? It can really depend. Azure or AWS. Now, I've used Azure, but I've not used Azure in depth. So I don't want to, basically tell you that use AWS because I like AWS. I think you'll have to look for yourself and check it out, or check out people who have experience in both of these fields. That will be much better than me telling you, please take AWS because it's much better, right? It's totally on you, right? So people are asking about salary, so let's go into the salary part of it. Okay, so let me just skip the right. So no, this is also important. Let me explain this also. Right. So if you're talking about the career in cloud computing, it is becoming very popular, especially because of COVID, because of how, everyone's, just staying at home. Because of that, internet is booming a lot more and people using internet a lot more. So it's seen almost 35% market growth in the year of 2021 itself. It's a $120 billion industry. If you guys know about Amazon, right? Amazon makes a lot more money on AWS than it actually makes in its shopping department, right? They actually run in loss over there. They recuperate for that loss by using AWS, right? And because of COVID, not everyone can be on premise. So again, cloud is becoming a lot more popular. And because of that, you're seeing a lot more jobs open up also. Right. So it is an almost recession proof career, but this is not an absolute statement that I want to give you guys. but there is a lot of requirement for it. And again, especially because of COVID, that is happening. So there are a lot of designations that you guys can apply for. There's cloud software engineer, your cloud product manager, cloud systems engineer, cloud developer, and cloud solutions architect, as we had discussed when we were talking about those AWS certifications. Right. So this is the basically the range of salaries you can earn. So as a cloud associate developer, you can earn around 7 lakhs, around that ballpark. Or if you're a senior cloud developer, you can earn 13 lakhs and even more. And as a cloud solutions architect, you can earn up to 25 lakhs as a minimum, and you can earn way more than that. As a cloud product manager, you're seeing salaries go up to 33 lakhs. This is per year. Obviously not per month. Per month would be crazy. But in America, you can see that it's going from $63,000 to $85,000 to $128,000 to $170,000. So that is again a large amount. So you definitely see amazing salaries in this department. And there's one thing that these salaries can be variable. Each company can pay different. So if you're going into a startup may pay 25,000, 25 lakhs to just to a senior cloud developer, right? And they may pay like 44 lakhs to a cloud solutions architect. So it really depends on the company. It depends where you are living. If you're in Bangalore, if you're in Mumbai, or if you are in any other country. Now, I'm sorry we've given only for India and US, but this is the majority of the audience we see in analytics. So that's what we provided for them. Uh, but you will see similar ballparks of salaries in other countries also. But again, it depends on where you're living. The standards of living there are like if you're paying a lot more rent, your salary will be a lot more higher. A good example is Bangalore versus Mumbai. Mumbai, the rents can be a lot higher, so generally you can get paid a lot higher amount of money. But then again, you don't have any, I mean, you don't have a lot of IT companies in Mumbai. You do have them, but not a lot. So mostly in Bangalore and in Delhi NCR mostly. But obviously you have jobs in Mumbai and Chennai also. So you can see there's a lot of good salaries over here, and you may not earn this as a fresher. So you once you get to the associate cloud developer role, that's when you start earning this much. Your starting salary may just be like around 4 lakh or 3 lakhs, but this is your starting salary. Now after 1 year, you can basically double if you get a associate cloud developer certificate, or if you show them you have experience, enough skills, then you can double your salary, and this just keeps on happening every 2 to 3 years. Like after 2 years of being an associate cloud developer, you'll become a senior cloud developer and you'll start earning 13 lakhs. And after 1 2 years, if you switch companies, you can earn 25 lakhs, right? So it depends on how you're doing this also. Depends on you, your negotiation skills also. All right, so those were cloud computing salaries also. So you can be overwhelmed by a lot of this information that I'm giving you. That's totally fine. Yeah, it is a lot to take in. And to shift to a cloud career is like shifting your career, right? And it's a little difficult, but that's fine. It is a step that you need to take though. You need to ask yourself, are you ready for this? And if you are, then you need to start. But again, if you guys all are already in jobs, I would not recommend quitting unless you're very financially backed. If you have enough like money to last you 2 3 years without a job, that's when I would recommend that. If you have a job already, please stay in that job and start learning on the side. Find time for yourself. Learn on the weekends, learn on every day in the evening. Find time for yourself. Do it in that way. Okay. It is key that you learn that you as a learner is not overwhelmed by the wealth of data present online. There's a lot of data, and you need to be on a structured learning path. That is the key, right? So there's another thing that you guys can do is talk with industry experts and discuss with them. Find peers. If you already work in a company where you have cloud infrastructure, you can just do internal migration. So if you want to shift to that job, find friends, make friends with them, ask them questions. They'll be readily help you, unless they're on call and they're very busy. All right, so there are a few resources. As I told you guys, you can go ahead and check out our blogs. You can check out Great Lane Academy, where you will get amazing courses. There's some really amazing professors that will teach you. So I would recommend going to IT cloud computing over here. on Great Learning Academy and trying out Cloud Foundations, right? And once you're done with Cloud Foundations, there's Cloud Foundations Advanced. And if you want to get into AWS, we have AWS specific course also, and we have an Azure specific course also. Okay, and also even on YouTube, you can just go to Great Learning, or just type on YouTube Great Learning Cloud. All right, it's taking a little bit more time, and again, you can guys can go and check out blocks. All right, so guys, I think we'll end with that. There again, I talked about specialization before already, so let us go ahead and end the lecture because we've gone way beyond our limit, right? We've gone 10 minutes more. So I'll just quickly go through all the questions that you guys have and we will cover them, right? So this is the video I was talking about. And then obviously Professor Nirmalaya Mukherjee is also really good. He has his own courses available on Great Learning Academy that you guys can check out. And also you guys can check out this one in Hindi, which is a very good course by Vishal Padgan. It's an awesome course. You guys can check it out. All right. Okay, so let me just quickly go through the questions you guys have on the chat. Which has high demand, big data, Hadoop developer, or cloud computing? I would say cloud computing. How can I get projects on cloud services? I'm currently working in some company. Ask them. Actually, look at a real world problem your company is facing. If you see that they're facing a specific problem and no one is trying to solve it because they don't have enough time, that is the perfect opportunity for you. Just ping your boss, tell them, is this possible? Then you make a proof of concept, like you try that solving that problem on a very small scale where it doesn't require a lot of your time. And once you're able to show that proof of concept where you solve the small thing, your boss he may give you a lot more time to work on it, right? Because he's seen the potential in you and he'll start giving you time to work on the bigger project. And this way, slowly you'll learn, you'll make a project, and you can even shift internally, or you can put that on your resume. All right, so let's move on. So I guess after that, let's move on. Manoj is saying currently support Windows 2019 admin. Please suggest. Same thing I told to the other person who was on Windows support. Try since you already know administrative level stuff. I would recommend going to the sysop administrator career path. That would be better for you, and start learning all the fundamentals. So this is how you start, guys. Basically, learn the fundamentals of cloud, then learn operating system and know a programming language, know a querying language, and then move on to a specific cloud provider like Amazon or Azure, and then learn services from there. Okay, and don't forget to check these videos out. Okay, so we have Thirunil, we have Arjunan asking, sir, I am Thiru. Okay, awesome, Thiru. I have teaching experience for past 8 years, but I feel bored in continuing the career. I wish to switch over to the industry. I hope this I hope this video helped you out then. Which cloud certification course would be promising for me as a career? So again, you can go ahead and check out these. You can start from foundations, go to advanced, and go to then AWS or Azure, whichever one you think you may be interested in, right? Okay, so once you are done with this, then I would recommend going and doing a AWS certification. So this is an exam, you'll have to pay for it, and you can go from cloud practitioner and become an associate level, basically cloud developer, cloud engineer, right? And then you can move on to either of these paths, from architect, operations, or developer. All right. Okay. So guys, that was it for our session. I hope it really helped you out understand what is cloud computing and how you can switch your career.